Hey Tammy, can you hear me? Do you know how to unmute?
Okay, there it goes.
Okay, perfect. I'll be here to help you answer any questions, okay?
Yes, sir.
So you'll say, we'll go through it, but when she asks, how do you plead guilty, not guilty, you're gonna say guilty. Okay, I'll be there.
That don't make any sense, shouldn't we?
Okay. We have everything. Okay.
Good afternoon. Are you Ms. Rogers?
Yes, ma'am.
Helen, are you with us?
I'm here.
They may have you muted, that's why.
I don't see.
No, it's on. Maybe.
Good afternoon. Can everyone, Mr. Cook, Mr. Seeloff, can you both hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Judge.
Yes, Judge.
All right.
Ms. Rogers, can you see your lawyer on the screen there? Say something, Dan.
Yes,
Hello.
Okay, very good.
Court will now call case number 6709, the state of Texas versus Tammy Gale Rogers. Is the state ready to proceed?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Is defense ready to proceed?
We're ready, Your
Ma'am.
Honor.
And ma'am, for the record, are you Tammy Gale Rogers?
yes, ma'am.
Ms. Rogers, you have been charged in this cause number with theft of property in an amount over $2,500 and less than $30,000. That is a state jail felony, which means it's punishable by imprisonment in the state jail division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for a term not to exceed 2 years and not less than 6 months. In addition, the court can assess a fine not to exceed $10,000. Ma'am, you have been charged with this offense by an indictment. Do you want that indictment read to you, or do you waive the reading of that indictment?
David.
I'm ready.
Do you want me to, the state to read this document charging you with your offense, or are you okay with him not reading it?
You can waive it.
You can waive
And
it.
Ms. Rogers, I need to hear you tell me that.
I'm sorry. You can waive it.
All right.
Huh.
And are you a US citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Then I'll ask you how you plead to this charge, guilty or not guilty.
Guilty, ma'am.
And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty and not for any other reason?
No, ma'am, I'm guilty.
And has anyone pressured you or coerced you in any way to get you to make this plea?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Rogers, I have in front of me this a document called a felony plea of guilty waiver stipulation and judicial confession. Have you gone over this document with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your, I don't know if you can see it, is that your signature on this document?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So by signing this document, do you agree with me that you understand that in this document, you're waiving certain rights, such as your right to a trial by jury?
Yes, ma'am.
And also you're telling me that all of the evidence the state has against you is true. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And also you're telling me that you believe you're mentally capable of understanding everything that's going on in court here today.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Seeloff, have you consulted with your client and advised her of her rights?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
And do you believe her to be mentally competent?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And do you approve of her signing these stipulations before the court today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Does the state concur?
State concurs, Your Honor.
Right, Ms. Rogers, I will approve these stipulations and I will enter them into the court's record as State's Exhibit number 1. Mr. Cook, is there a plea agreement in this case?
There is, Your Honor, in exchange for the defendant's plea of guilty, the state has agreed to recommend to the court that the defendant be sentenced to a period of confinement of 4 years with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Oh, I'm sorry, 24 months, excuse me. Be sentenced to 24 months confinement with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the State Jail Division. However, that sentence be suspended for a period of 4 years, excuse me. Fines in amount of $50 assessed against the defendant, restitution in the amount of $5,662 payable to Walmart Supercenter store number 812 in Dumas, Texas. Payment of any court fees and costs in the bill of costs attached to the judgment. And that's all, Your Honor. And a $50 Crime Stoppers repayment too, excuse me.
Ms. Rogers, you've heard the district attorney's office announce a plea agreement. Was that the plea agreement that you reached with them?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you concur, Mr. Seeloff?
It is, Your Honor.
Right, Ms. Rogers, I'll follow the recommendation of the district attorney's office, and I will find you guilty of the offense of theft of property in an amount over $2,500 and less than $30,000. And I sentence you to imprisonment or to confinement in the State Jail Division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. However, I will suspend that confinement at this time and place you on probation for a period of 4 years. During that 4 years, you'll be required to follow all of the terms and conditions of probation. You'll also be required, and I hereby order you to pay restitution in the amount of $5,662 payable to Walmart. Also, I'll order you to pay a $50 Crime Stoppers fee. Now, if during that 4-year period of probation, you follow all of their terms and conditions, then you will never have to serve this 2 years in state jail. However, if you don't follow those terms and conditions of probation, and the state can prove it, then I can revoke your probation and you'll be required to serve that 2 years in state jail. Do you have any questions about this judgment?
No, ma'am.
Right, ma'am, before you're released on probation, one of the probation officers will come by and talk to you and explain these terms and conditions to you. Most of these conditions are not that hard. I urge you to do the 2 simplest ones. Pay your $60 a month and report to your probation officer. I would much rather see you do this than spend 2 years in state jail. Let's see, I don't think I said this. I'm going to order you to pay any court costs or fees associated with this judgment. Ma'am, I need to ask you, have you been satisfied with your representation by Mr. Seeloff?
Yes, ma'am.
Has he done everything that you've asked him to do?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything further from the state
Nothing further, Judge.
and anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Rogers, you may be excused. I see that you've signed all the paperwork. Just ask you to hang tight and wait to speak with the probation officer, and then I'm sure shortly you'll be released.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
And I believe we just have one more judge and that'll be it for Ochoa.
On Mr. Cook, on that one, she doesn't show any jail time credit. Did she have jail time credit?
I'm assuming she did because she's in jail, but I don't know how Becca calculates that. I'm not sure if she's in jail on this particular charge or if she was in for something else.
Well, I'll just bring that up to both of you, to Mr. Seeloff, if you need to check on that. Since she's on probation, I don't,
She doesn't get any credit. She's on probation right now, Judge.
yeah, so unless she's revoked, it probably won't matter.
Yep,
Is Tammy here at the Moore County Jail?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
So is this? We,
So, Sheriff? Do you have Mr. Ochoa Rodriguez with you? Can you unmute the microphone so that we can hear him, please?
We got it?
Yep,
Very good. Mr. Ochoa Rodriguez, do you see your lawyer on the screen here? Can you see Mr. Seeloff on the screen? Say something, Dan.
hello, I'm your lawyer.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good.
Good.
right, good afternoon. The court will now call case number 1193, the state of Texas versus Edwin Ochoa Rodriguez. Is the state ready to proceed?
State's ready, Your Honor.
Is defense ready to proceed?
We're ready, Your Honor.
Sir, for the record, are you Edwin Ochoa Rodriguez?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ochoa Rodriguez, you have been charged in this cause with possession of a controlled substance in penalty group 1. That's a state jail felony. That means that that this offense is punishable by confinement in the state jail division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for a term not to exceed 2 years and not less than 180 days. In addition, the court may assess a fine not to exceed $10,000. Mr. and sir, do you go by Ochoa Rodriguez or just Rodriguez?
Ochoa.
Mr. Ochoa, thank you. You have been charged with this offense by a document called an indictment. Do you want that indictment read to you, or do you waive the reading of that indictment?
I waive it.
And sir, are you a U.S. citizen?
No.
Do you understand that if you plead guilty to this offense, you can be deported?
Yes, ma'am. It's your honor.
And do you also understand that if you're not deported and you apply for citizenship, pleading guilty can prevent you from becoming a U.S. citizen?
Yes, your honor.
Right, Mr. Ochoa, in that case, I'll ask you how you plead to this charge, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty and not for any other reason?
I am guilty.
Has anyone coerced you or pressured you in any way to get you to make this plea?
No, your honor.
Right, Mr. Ochoa, I have in front of me a document called a felony plea of guilty waiver stipulation and judicial confession. Have you gone over this document with your attorney?
Yes, your honor.
And is this, I don't know if you can see it, is that your signature on this document? I can get my, can you see that?
Yeah,
that
with my thumbprint? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, your honor.
all right. By signing this document, are you telling me that you understand everything in this document?
Yes, your honor.
Are you telling me that you understand that you're waiving certain rights you have under state law, such as the right to a trial by jury?
Yes, your honor.
And do you understand that you're stipulating or you're agreeing that all of the evidence the state has against you is true?
Yes, your honor.
And also, Mr. Ochoa, do you believe that you're mentally capable of understanding everything that's going on in court today?
Yes,
Mr. Seeloff, have you consulted with your client and advised him of his rights?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
And do you believe him to be mentally competent?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Do you believe that he is, let's see, that he is mentally competent, and do you believe he's freely and voluntarily waiving these rights in court today?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Do you approve of him signing these stipulations before the court today?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Does the state concur?
State concurs, Your Honor.
Right, Mr. Ochoa, I am signing these stipulations, and I will enter them into the court's record as State's Exhibit number 1. Mr. Cook, is there a plea agreement in this case?
There is, Your Honor, in exchange for the defendant's plea of guilty, the state has agreed to recommend to the court that the defendant be placed on deferred adjudication community supervision for a period of 3 years, a fine in the amount of $1,250 to be paid by the defendant, as well as any court costs and fees in the bill of costs attached to the judgment. And finally, Your Honor, restitution in the amount of $180 in restitution, if I did not already say that, payable to the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Mr. Ochoa, you've heard the district attorney's office announce a plea agreement. Is that the plea agreement that you reached with them?
yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Seeloff, do you concur?
I do, Your Honor.
Right, Mr. Ochoa, I will follow the recommendation of the district attorney's office, and I'm not going to find you guilty today of the offense of possession of a controlled substance. Instead, I'm going to defer or put off a finding of guilt for a period of 3 years. I order that you pay a $1,250 fine, and also that you pay $180 in restitution to the Texas Department of Public Safety for testing those drugs. Mr. Ochoa, during this 3 years of probation, it is very important that you follow all of the rules and regulations of probation. So long as you do that, then these charges will be dismissed. If you do not do that and the state can prove it, then I can sentence you to anything up to the full 2 years in state jail. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor, I understand.
Do you have any questions about this order?
Not everything's clear as water.
Well, great. Mr. Ochoa, have you been satisfied with your representation by Mr. Seeloff?
Yes, Your Honor.
And has he done everything that you asked him to do?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, Mr. Ochoa, I'm going to sign this order. And before you are released from jail, you will need to visit with one of our probation officers, and she will go over all of the terms and conditions of probation with you. I'm not sure when one of them will be able to get over to Sherman County. My guess is probably tomorrow, but I'm sure it will be soon. If you have any problems, you can visit with your attorney on that.
Okay,
once
Your
again,
Honor.
anything further from the state?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
And Mr. Seeloff, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Ochoa, you may be excused. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Have a good day.